All right. First off, thank you for everyone for joining us again here tonight or in the morning if you are in the western side of the world. So it is about 4 minutes past that 7 p.m. SGT mark or 11 a.m. UTC mark. And today it's going to be a particularly interesting conversation as we explore not only the future of renewable energy, but just how exactly tokenized investments are making an impact on refi and sustainable energy as well. Joining us today is Hydro Wind Energy, a leading protocol in the sustainable energy industry. And joining us tonight is Lee King, CEO and co-founder. Floor is yours, Lee. If you want to make a quick introduction about yourself and introduce yourself to the audience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. Sorry. Who am I? Julian. Is that Julian?
Oh no, this is Gene. Yeah, sorry. Hey guys, this is
Oh, G.
Gene
Sorry.
again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Sorry, because I'm just trying to connect on my mobile and I couldn't do that. Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, my name's Lee King. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hydro Wind Energy. We're developing disruptive technologies in offshore wind, energy storage, and seawater desalination. We've been operating now for 4 or 5 years, and we're starting now to. We're getting very close to starting the commercialization of our technology. Yeah, but I guess we're going to go through a lot of those questions soon, won't we?
Yeah, thanks for that amazing introduction. So I guess a lot of people have been asking about the community. In the community, have been asking about hydro wind energy, what you guys do. So maybe before to officially get this started, could you give us a high level introduction to hydro wind energy and what inspired the creation of hydro wind energy?
Yeah. Thanks. So ultimately, what we're working in the offshore energy space. We're developing offshore wind energy space. We're developing quite a unique technology, this technology that harnesses wind offshore in deep water, and then stores it subsea in a mechanically in a gravity-based energy storage system, and then releases that on demand. So we've got a system that's it's a hybrid approach to harnessing wind offshore, but it opens up access to offshore wind in deep waters. It reduces the cost of energy. It provides grid scale energy storage. And in addition to that, it can also be used for seawater desalination at scale. So we've been developing those systems for the last few years, and now we've actually built a subscale system. It's about a 40-ton system that we are very close to kind of deploying in the ocean for the first time to test it and then validate the entire technology. Think of like a full. It's not a full scale; it's a subscale system, but proof of concept. Yeah, so we're working towards that. We're going to potentially deploy it. We've built those systems in Dubai, although the holding company is based out of the US. And yeah, we're going to potentially deploy it in Fujairah. We've got the Red Sea. We can also deploy it there. We're looking at potentially off the coast of the Canary Islands in Spain. And even also Malta as well. And we have optionally as well to test it in off the coast of California.
Amazing, amazing stuff. It goes without saying, I think everyone here is aware about, how critical it is that at a time like this, when we have global warming, climate crises, and, it might sound a little redundant here, but for everyone that's listening in, it's interesting that you mentioned renewable energy and water security, which basically creates this kind of holistic full cycle for renewable energy. But could you spell out why this intersection is so critical in today's world?
Yeah, to be honest, I really think that kind of probably one of the defining challenges of the 21st century is the global transition to renewables, which isn't going to happen overnight. We still source probably around 87% of our energy, and I'm talking from all sectors. Whether it's heat, transportation, it's still fossil fuel based, and the transition is going to take time, but we need to do a lot more to avoid the catastrophic, I think, environmental impacts of relying on fossil fuels. I think now it's a fact now that the carbon emissions in the atmosphere now have already exceeded, I think, over 420 parts per million, which is double what they were during the Industrial Revolution. So I think we're trying to do our part, and our aim is really to reduce carbon emissions by at least 1%, which for one company is still quite significant. That would be 500 million tons of CO2 equivalent by 2030. It's achievable, but with the right partners. And in addition, we're also tackling water. It's a huge challenge globally. I think water scarcity, 2/3 of the world's population live in water scarce regions. Again, it's not just water that we drink, but it's also for agriculture. Everything relies on water, but we need desalination already exists, but we need something that reduces the costs even further. Desalination at the moment is very energy intensive. And I think our approach, we still use conventional technologies, reverse osmosis membranes, but what we do, we use sea depth, hydrostatic pressure to desalinate seawater, and then we use wind indirectly to lift the water to the surface, and wind again to deliver it to shore. So it's 100% renewable. But yeah, solving really these two very big challenges. Another thing I'd like to cover as well, I think one of the big challenges is also energy storage. And if you look at what we're developing, we're actually solving the energy storage problem, because as we build an array of our systems offshore, we're actually building the energy storage capacity for the entire grid to increase resiliency and provide grid stability. Because renewables, the more we bring renewables and the more we use energy from renewables, the more intermittent power or volatile power we are connecting to the grid, and that causes immense power. We are, as humans, we're used to on-demand power, which means that ultimately you switch it on and off, like as if you're switching a light switch at home. But the problem with renewables at the moment is it's not like that. The wind isn't always blowing, the sun isn't always shining. So you need something to kind of absorb that volatility or store the energy when you have excess amounts of wind and solar, and then give it back to the grid when it's required. So if you look at our systems, we've got this kind of mechanical-based gravity solution that will provide, in essence, it will allow us to kind of transition much more rapidly towards renewables.
All right, a lot of interesting stuff down there. And for everyone that's listening in, don't worry, we are going to dissect this. We do have a lot of time, so we're going to go through this together. You mentioned desalination, and I am aware that you guys are working on a device called QuenchSea. I think
Yeah.
you talked about it briefly, but for everyone else in here, could you probably get a little deeper in how it works, and if there are already, or if there is, what impact has it already had in marine and humanitarian applications?
Yeah, I appreciate that, V. So the core of our business is really offshore wind and water desalination at scale. But during COVID, we developed the world's only low-cost handheld seawater desalination device, a portable device that has a reverse osmosis membrane inside of it. It's a hydraulic system that you literally just put the tube in the water and you start pumping, and it provides you with fresh water from seawater. So it's quite unique because nothing like that has ever been developed in terms of a low cost. There has been one that was developed for the military, but costs over 2,500. So we've actually launched it at around 150. It was the first version, and then the second version, and now we're working on the third version. So we've already started the commercialization of QuenchSea, and it's a device that produces 8 liters per hour. It might not appear significant, but 8 liters is really enough and more sufficient for a human to survive on it. The reason why we developed it, we actually developed it specifically for the humanitarian sector, because there's over 1.2 billion people worldwide that don't have access to clean water. So this is a device that empowers people to produce their own fresh water from seawater that's clean. They can drink it, but it can also be used, for example, for disaster relief. And we've launched it and we're selling it online at the moment. And it's mainly people that are buying it are preppers, the sailing community, people that are using kayaks, for example, and they need it, or even campers, where they use it, and they're going to be probably camping somewhere where they won't have access to fresh water, but they have access to seawater. Yeah, it's been a success so far, and we're planning this year now to really start scaling it after we launch version 3, which will be the most efficient version. Just easier to pump, Yeah, and it's yeah, the idea is to launch. It was from the start was to launch a low cost device, and we're going to try to bring as we scale it. We want to also bring the price down and make an impact as big as possible, especially on the humanitarian side. Very specifically, maybe also with like the United Nations, and our aim is to impact 1 billion people by 2030 with this device.
That is an amazing initiative, and I must say I love the fact that you guys are not only offering energy storage and your renewable energy, but you also think about it on a small scale for really humanitarian reasons, as you said, and that number alone, 1.2 billion people that don't have access to water, and the impact that QuenchSea could make on that is just it's massive, right? But jumping to the next question here, you talked for a bit about how hydro wind energy is working on offshore wind energy and storage project. I understand that you guys are aiming for a TRL7. So for everyone that's listening in, I guess could you explain what TRL7 is and what
Yeah.
does this milestone mean for the industry and investors?
Yeah, well, this is probably would be the most significant milestone for us. And TRL stands for Technology Readiness Level. It's just a way to kind of measure where you are in the technology development cycle, whether you're in concept stage, have you built a system, a prototype. So we've already actually built an entire system, integrated it, automated it. There's a lot of hydraulics involved. I mean, I can't share videos here at the moment, but we've got videos probably on our social media channels that you can see the entire system built. And the next step for us to take it to 7 is to put it into the actual water and test it in a real environment, in a real offshore environment. So this will be the first time that we've done small tests and bits and pieces here and like component testing and things like that. But this will be the first time we're going to be moving from technology readiness level 6, where the system has been built, integrated, and now we're going to put it, deploy it offshore and test it for 4 or 5 months, potentially off the coast of Fujairah at the moment, because we've been given permission to deploy it there. We're going to be deploying it in 1,000 meter sea depth. Nothing like this has ever been done before. And the subsea part, the gravity-based part, the block will drop to 500 meters, and then it will be carried solely by, mechanically lifted by the wind. So yeah, so this is exactly what it means, reaching technology readiness level. Then once we achieve that, we test the device, probably maximum of 6 months. Then we'll move into building a full-scale demonstrator, which is almost like a pre-commercialization model. And this allows us, again, to test it at scale, to validate the technology at scale, and also to turn it to kind of into a bankable asset where we can start now commercializing and building, say, for example, 50 of these, 100 of these into an array that connects to the grid and supplies a city, like, for example, Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates.
All right, and just to stress that fact, you guys are at TRL6, which just means when you guys get to TRL7, this basically means that you guys are ready for massive restructuring and able to supply a bigger demand, I would say. And then I guess it would mean for everyone that's listening in here, this is the perfect time, to get in with hydro wind energy, especially with the offering on IXS Launchpad. I guess it's just leading naturally into the next question here, but could you probably maybe dive a little deeper into what makes hydro wind energy different from other renewable energy initiatives out there?
Yeah, great question, V. Yeah, so we're the way we've approached how we harness wind offshore is that we're not converting wind directly to electrical energy. So if you look at offshore wind farms, that's exactly what they're doing. And if you do that, if you convert wind to electrical energy directly, you'll get fluctuating power. Excuse me. Which means that your electricity output will vary depending on the wind speed. The power output is measured in, say, for example, megawatts or kilowatts. So if you're not getting that, you're providing fluctuating to the power to the grid, which is very difficult to manage. I mean, one of the most difficult things, the grid is managing all these renewable, intermittent sources that are providing electricity to the grid. So our approach is that we're only using wind for mechanical lift. And because we're only using it for mechanical lift to lift the heavy mass submerged in the ocean, then that means we harness more of the available wind resource. So in essence, we can potentially increase the energy yield by 3 to 4 times more than a conventional wind turbine. In addition, we lower the costs of electricity that we produce, which is called the levelized cost of energy. We're opening up access to deep sea offshore wind that is currently inaccessible to conventional wind turbines. Conventional wind turbines are limited to shallow waters. I mentioned reducing cost. And in addition to that, we're actually providing energy storage because our systems have, the block subsea that you can store it at height and then keep it there for when the grid requires it. So that's kind of the unique aspects of what we're doing. But we're also, the same system can also be used with a slightly different configuration, can be also used for seawater desalination at scale. So there's nothing like that in the market or anyone actually working in a similar kind of a similar technology. We do have offshore floating wind, but again, they're converting wind directly to electricity, and all they're doing is they're using conventional horizontal wind turbines, kind of the big wind turbines, and they're just putting them on a platform and putting them in the ocean. So yeah, that's the kind of main difference.
So it just sounds like what hydro wind energy is completely changing the game here, because it seems like the problem that we have with current wind turbines is the volatility of the
Yeah.
energy that it's plugging into the energy grid. And then this, I guess, would create a disruption rather than actually helping solve the renewable energy crisis. But with hydro wind energy, you guys are solving this as well with the storage that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think that's really great. And for everyone that's listening in, I think this is going to be, you guys are leading, will be leading the race for renewable energy.
We hope so. Yeah.
That's and at the end, for everyone listening in, if you're just jumping in now, and then what hydro wind energy does is they create a holistic life cycle for renewable energy, because then this also plugs into the desalination device that you were just mentioning.
Yeah. I mean, the desalination devices. Remember, it was just like another. It's a product line. It has its own vertical. It has its own market. But the good thing is that it's already generating revenues for us. So we've already generated over 1.1 million US dollars out of QuenchSea, and now, like I said, we're just about to launch a third version, which is the one that we really want to scale to 1 million units within the next 12 to 24 months, and that will generate over 100 million US dollars. So there is huge potential, and it's a drop in the ocean. I mean, 1 million units, you might think that's a lot, but really, compared to the challenges globally, it's a drop in the ocean. If you think about 1.2 billion people don't have access to clean water. But the idea for us is really to provide it at an affordable price. We would have to work with NGOs like the United Nations or other water initiatives and charities to really scale this, because it needs people on the ground.
Great stuff. And I'd like to bring also the fact, I think we can jump into the second segment now. A lot of people have been asking, they've been looking at the HWE token on the IXS Launchpad. The returns are great. And I guess, just adding on to what Lee said, what makes this really unique is not only will you be a part of, what HWE is doing and what Lee just mentioned about providing, water to solving water scarcity on a commercial level for 1.2 billion people, but actually partaking
Yeah.
in the HW token offering on the IXS Launchpad, you can be a part of hydro wind energy success via equity token. And I guess maybe, Lee, would you like to provide more insights on how this, how investors can be a part of hydro wind energy through this partnership that we have on the IXS Launchpad?
Yeah, so I think generally we really think that's a very exciting space. The whole idea of tokenizing real world assets. We want to be a part of it. I think one of the things that really, I mean, we're funding nonstop. I mean, at the moment, the company's continuously funding in parallel. We have also a funding round, a corporate VC/VC funding round. But we felt that we really wanted to tap into the equity tokenization. To see how that would develop, especially as well because we can provide a liquid market immediately after close. So we've done actually crowdfunding before with Republic and Seeders, and one of the challenges there is that people can invest. Depending on which jurisdiction, sometimes they're locked into the investment for at least 12 months, and then it opens up. But even after it opens up, there's no really secondary market for investors to liquidate. So I think that was one of the things that really attracted us, for example, to work with IX Swap. But yeah, we felt that it's a way for us to raise, also build the community, because one of the things that we're doing, say for QuenchSea, we want to build a community because they can connect us to new NGOs, water charities. They can be potential customers as well. They can join us and support us in terms of the journey. So it's not just about funding, but it's also kind of building a community that's kind of supporting you through the technology development cycle right up to commercialization. Yeah, so we thought it was a good idea, and I feel that although there's certain things that we don't like in terms of equity tokenization, like the KYC, because we've realized when we're currently building the whitelist that a lot of people in the crypto space are not used to the KYC. I think the reason why crypto's gone so big is because anyone from anywhere in the world, whether you're in the middle of the Saharan desert with a mobile phone or someone in the middle of China or in the US, you can immediately tap into cryptos. But when you're moving into the equity tokenization, you're really talking about securities. So the KYC is important, which we really, if you were to ask me, I would tell you the ideal scenarios, like, yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to accept, accept any investor from anywhere. I don't think like we should be, we need to kind of validate their ID and their address or whatever. I think that's been a hassle for us. But we have to also, it's within a regulatory framework, so you don't, which is kind of changing gradually and it's different from every country to the other. But we still think it's a huge opportunity in terms of the growth of tokenization. But the idea is also to make it to make it accessible. So immediately someone would have a part of our company in their wallet. And they'd be able to buy it and sell it with a liquid market to anyone else anywhere in the world. I mean, it's almost like you're opening the entire globe to investments, regardless of where they are, without intermediaries, which is very different from current, say, going public. I mean, it's almost like you're going public in a way when you're
Yeah.
doing this, and you're accessing the entire crowd to support you through what you're doing. Yeah, so we think it's a very, very unique opportunity.
Yeah, we could not agree more. I feel like one of the intersection of this amazing partnership and integration is we both agree on the fact that these types of opportunities should not be reserved for the extremely wealthy. They should not be reserved to anyone. And this is why also IXS, also while following regulatory compliance and being licensed by the SEB Bahamas, we really are the only RWA platform out there with a really easy KYC. Because we really believe that you should be able to get your hands on amazing opportunities like this, especially when you're able to make an impact in sustainable energy. And at the same time, just like what you talked about with the after 2 years, there is a buyback option and structured exit. This could not be any better for anyone that's looking to invest in high impact assets. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I just want to cover that because this is the first time we've done that actually. So because we feel like, yeah, we're on the right trajectory in terms of our funding rounds and in terms of scaling QuenchSea and really hitting the milestones that we need to. And we've already been like with the potentially there might be an IPO as well. So that's why we kind of took the risk of with this, because we really want to turn this into a success. That we made a commitment to buy the shares back at double the price. So it gives also a quick exit strategy for investors at this stage, and also liquidity, which, like you said, is through the secondary market. But yeah, so that kind of gives. We haven't done that. Was the first time where we kind of committed to buying back the tokens off any investors that come on board now.
Yeah, and for anyone that's listening in, I cannot stress enough how amazing that is. First of all, you are investing in a high impact renewable asset, and at the same time, you are giving a structured exit. I mean, what else could you ask for? I guess, in other words, Ali, I guess a lot of people here are still might be new to equity, or if there are a lot of crypto degens listening in, or about securities. Maybe you could discuss a little bit about how the dividends would play into factor into investor returns. And how do revenue streams for QuenchSea or offshore wind projects factor in?
Yeah, so for the offshore technologies, they're still in development, so they haven't been commercialized. So they're likely, we're looking probably a trajectory of maybe 24 months before they can potentially even generate any revenues. So the revenues that would be generated would be from QuenchSea. So if we start scaling that, this is what we will potentially pay, i.e., for example, dividends to our existing investor base, and also sharing it with the community that's coming on board with the tokenized equity as well. Yeah, so if we scale it, then it will be, like I said, if we scale it within the next 24 months, as long as we've got everything in place and the funding's in place for that, then, like I say, we could potentially be hitting over 100 million US dollars in revenue before the end of 2026. And then that we'll probably definitely be paying some form of dividends to token holders. But like I said, we have the cycle for these tokens is really to give us flexibility to, if we do also IPO, to be able to also buy the tokens back from investors, where they also make a decent return as well.
Amazing, amazing stuff. And I feel like we've been talking about the type of people that can invest in this type of token offering, which is, equity for hydrogen energy. But just for the sake of everyone listening in, who can participate in this token offering? And if you don't know IXS, we are open to all retail, credit, institutional. But I think they'd like to hear from you, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, the good thing is with IXWeb that it's open also to all the retail, accredited, institutional, but people, like, I think it's kind of open to people that want to genuinely make an investment and get a decent return, but also people that want to invest in renewables, and access a startup that's potentially making a significant impact on the environmental crisis, and being part of that journey. Well, that's what I would say. But it is open. It depends on people's interest. But in a sense, what we're doing, and this is what IXSwap, it's like kind of democratizing kind of the investment space, where normally our company we'd be just tapping into VCs, or corporate, venture capitalists, or corporate funds. But now this is kind of opening up to the community at large, wherever they are, if they want to be a part of this.
And who wouldn't want to be a part of this, right? I mean, you're making an impact in renewable energy desalination devices for 1.2 billion people that don't have access to water,
Mm.
and at the same time, a structured exit. I mean, it does. From what it sounds like, I feel like if you don't invest in the hydrogen energy at the moment, you are missing out on potentially creating an impact, and not only that, but your impact is also generating you wealth. Um,
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of boiling down to the last section of our AMA. It's been great, but I feel like everyone is looking to what is next. So, what does the roadmap look like for hydrogen energy post launch? Are there any upcoming developments or partnerships? I think you mentioned a few, but maybe we would like to reiterate that for anyone that just joined in.
Yeah, I mean, recently we won the Clean Tech Hackathon with DEWA, which is based out. It's kind of the utility company based out of the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. I didn't mention this before, but we've got a 50 million euro commitment, signed commitment, equity subscription agreement from Gem Group. But this is for an IPO, so that's why I mentioned that earlier, that we may potentially be moving towards an IPO. We do want to hit some more milestones. Ideally for us is, in the next 12 months, we really want to hit technology readiness level 7 as fast as possible, because this also attracts additional partners and investors. And then really to be really prepared before the end of this year to move into building a scale prototype. And as mentioned earlier as well, our aim is to scale QuenchSea, like launch version 3, which is in the works at the moment. We're working on the molds in China for these. And that should be launched hopefully mid to maybe July this year. There might be a small delay there, but we're hoping that we can finalize that and launch it by then, and then start to scale it, really.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And I think a lot of people in our community are also trying to see what that would look like down the long run. So we can now jump into the community questions here. I think there are a few that are pretty interesting. The first one being, how long does the block apply pressure for? And is the wind turbine disabled when the block reaches a certain height?
Yeah, good question. So the block is actually, as it's being dropped, the turbine still actually rotates because it still accumulates power, and it puts it into accumulator. There's accumulator at the top, so it still rotates even when it's dropping, generating power. And then when it drops and hits the depth that it's required, say 500 meters, then that's when the wind rotors are switched back on, connected, and then it's used to lift the actual the block by the submerged height. And how fast obviously depends on the what the wind speeds are and how big the rotors are.
That sounds really grand, and I think this is just in line with our second question here, which is how complicated and how frequent is the maintenance?
Yeah, good question. Because we're operating in very harsh environments offshore, operations and maintenance are paramount. We need to develop a strategy for operations and maintenance. And when we did the levelized cost of energy, i.e., what would the potential unit cost of electricity would be once we start scaling it, we actually accounted for about, I think, 35% of the total costs that were spent on operations and maintenance. But the good thing is that everything is on platform level because it's like a floating platform. If you look at conventional wind turbines, the height they have to climb to the top of the turbine at a height of about 100, 150 meters to do the operations and maintenance. For us, everything is at the base at on the platform itself.
Got it, got it. And I feel like we've asked this question multiple times, and I feel like it's a community question that comes up a lot. So just for the sake of everyone that's listening in, and so we can make this clear, regarding the water
Yeah.
filter system, is it attached to the energy generator, or is it a separate device entirely?
No, it's the for the offshore one. It's so we can actually either use the system as long as the system has the reverse osmosis membranes and a pressure vessel subsea. You can actually use it either for energy storage or power generation, or you can use it for water desalination. So it's just the way set up. But if you're using it for power, you'll need to have obviously cables that connect to the grid, or yeah, so you need like inter-array cables, an export cable to deliver to shore, and potentially even a substation. But for water, it's completely autonomous, and you will just need sail barges to deliver to shore. So in some of the locations, say for example, we're working with the Saudis, the Water Innovation Center there. They're literally 1 or 2 kilometers offshore. They already have the depths that we need and the wind. So we don't need to travel too long to deliver the desalinated water to shore.
All right, thanks for answering that question. And don't worry, for everyone that's listening, and we will be creating a recap of this AMA, and we'll be providing a text version of this, just so that we can get all your questions cleared up. And then I guess we're boiling now to the last question here. So this community member saw something about the Core Power Ocean Buoy. How does this product compare to that one?
Yeah, I think the course, as far as I think they use wave power. If you look at ours, we're not using wave power. We're actually using our technology is ultimately wind, offshore wind, and then mechanical based storage subsea. So yeah, so they're using wave. We're actually ultimately using wind for as the energy input.
All right, thanks for answering all those questions, Lee, and providing amazing insight into hydro wind energy and just how people can make an impact and wealth off of that impact. I guess we're now boiling into the last minutes of our session here. Is there anything you would like to tell the audience today before we officially end this session?
No, I think thank you very much for listening. I think we're on a journey at the moment. We're still building things. We are very ambitious, and hopefully things work out. Like yeah, we're working very hard behind the scenes to make things happen. And like I said, this equity tokenization is in parallel to also a large VC round, so that will also kind of support us. But yeah, really exciting times.
All right, thanks, Lee. And for everyone that's listening in, I mean, where else will you find making an impact and investing in renewable energy? And just as Lee mentioned, hydro wind energy is just not all about making an impact, but they're also, They have the funding, they have the technology, and the best part is they're available on the IXS Launchpad. So do check them out. We will be posting the links, and stay tuned in our channels. And thanks again, Lee, for joining. That was a great AMA session. Don't worry, we will be creating recaps off of this. And thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.